here today with Kelly Thelen. She is a ULI participant from Cohort 2 and is now a coach for Cohort 3, which is really exciting. Kelly is here to talk about her project, but also just a few things about herself in education and what she's really enjoying about education. Kelly, you have taught several different grades, you mentioned, and your actual next journey will be to teach adults.
Correct.
In college. So that's a from preschool this past year to college students.
It's a big jump.
That is a big jump, right. Yeah, so what is it right now that you are really liking about education?
I love so many things about education right now. And if you would have asked me about this before the UNI-LA, I don't know what I would have said, but the UNI-LA has really opened my eyes to so many wonderful opportunities that are out there in education. I think it's really excited. These communities that we have that are forming are ways of creating podcasts and blogs and connecting as learning communities and growing with that. That's really exciting to me. I'm really enjoying the embracement of art and engagement and bringing that into the classroom and the power of creativity.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I see that as when you speak of just where education is, there's a lot of about education. There's a lot out there about how this is happening and this is happening, when really this is happening and this is happening. There are great things, and letting people see those great things, even amongst 4 and 5-year-olds in preschool, and how powerful they are, I think is so cool. And that's what I love about this experience, is getting to see. We could go on and on about the things we want to fix in education. We could we all know that. But we also see all these great things. And your project is one of those great things that are happening, and that you can now push, not just with, yes, it's specific to the kids you just had, but where can this take you to the students you're about to embrace, these college students? Like, where can this work take you there?
yeah.
So I'm excited to hear about that. Your project was say it again.
Tortillas and Tempera was the name of my
Tortillas
project,
and
yes.
Tempera. How did you come to what, I guess I should preface, LI students or teachers, participants, we get to choose what it is we want to work on in our classroom. What is a need we see in our classroom, or ask ourselves a research question, and then go in and try to work through that challenge or that idea we have in our classroom. Mine was bringing creativity to the classroom, engaging students in more creativity in how they show their learning. And so what was it that you were wanting to see in your classroom, or what was that question you had for yourself in your classroom?
Originally it was very different than the direction that it went. Originally, it was probably very similar to yours. And I think that's funny because if I remember correctly, our graduate projects were very similar too.
Yeah.
With fluency and very similar to you. I wanted to bring that creativity in and that engagement. And then the direction that it went was just very much, I see that we can do this. Where can we go from here? How can we, I really like how they're spending more time painting with ink on a long brush than they are with crayons, right? I'm noticing that they'll spend 15 to 20 minutes with that. How can I bring more opportunities for that? How can I keep that going? What other medium and materials would they like to use? What other projects can I have? I really like how we're thinking with colors and spatial awareness when we're looking at a picture of a penguin and drawing what we see with those colors versus just, filling in a coloring page. How can I bring more of those opportunities in? And it led to all of those things, of creating these habitat murals that we'd make and put in the hallways. And then my colleagues were doing the same thing. And we were having lots of opportunities for students to create art as artists, and then also create art from their imagination, using that experience and confidence that they had gained in creating art.
Yeah.
And I think that was a really remarkable thing for students to have that opportunity.
I see that power too. As a second grade teacher, I see the power in having students take on that for themselves, because when they get to second grade and they're drawing pictures, oftentimes we hear, I don't know how to draw that, or I can't do that, or they get really stuck. But then if they had the opportunity to create their art and then take that art and create a story, the standards that you start to cover are incredible.
Yeah.
With just starting with a piece of art, which is going to engage many students if they get their choice in how to create something. And so I think about your preschool experience, and with those kids, what was something you started with in your project? Where did you start?
I started a lot with the texts that really inspire a lot of creativity and thinking outside the box. So Peter H. Reynolds is a hero of mine. His, work with the dots, with sky color. I think of that anytime I'm driving and looking at the horizon and the Iowa sunset that often doesn't have blue in it, but has all these other colors. And we brought that in, and this new way of looking at things, right? A pumpkin isn't always orange. It's all these different colors, and there's so much more diversity in things in the world than if we just stop and observe and pay attention. And let's bring that creatively in there. So I approached it with that. Another book I really enjoy is Beautiful Oops, where an accident is an oopportunity, right? It's an opportunity for learning and to go with that, so that we're not, oh, I screwed up, oh, I'm not a good artist. And then Peter H. Reynolds also really encouraged me to create art with my students, and I started to do a lot of that, and then encourage the paraprofessionals that I had in my room as well to create art with the students as well, so that we are all in this learning community together.
So we're not
making
up there.
mistakes.
So we're not up there as teachers going, remember, I'm not the art teacher.
Yes, right.
Because I say that all the time. Remember, I'm not the art teacher. I've had to stop because
Good
I'm like,
for you.
no, I'm an artist too.
Yes.
I can create too. Do I struggle sometimes? Sure, but my art is just as valuable. Our art teacher's fantastic, but my art is valuable too.
Absolutely. Everyone can be an artist, and anything can be art, right? Yeah.
So what led you? Where did the title Tortilla Tempura? Tempura.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where did that come from?
Sure.
How
So
did that-
tempera paints, right? That we paint with, and a lot of the time, painting activities can seem like they're creative, but it can be a lot of following steps and following directions if we're not careful, right? And so that's something that I'm always asking myself is, what is the actual engagement level in this? What is the student-directed part of it? When we're drawing a poinsettia after reading Legend of the Poinsettias, and we have, the colors that are part of a poinsettia, and they have the full choice to how they want to use those colors and the brushes to make the strokes and how they want to design it. Maybe it's one poinsettia that they have on there, maybe it's a dozen. However, those are their creative choices that they can make, and doing more of that is messier, right? Does take more, more flexibility to create that space, but it's also incredibly valuable, and we see that with students. The tortilla part came from observing my students playing with Play-Doh, making a tortilla, sharing that connection, and then really stopping to think about it, that tortillas are an important part of life and daily life for many of my students. I want to bring that cultural component into my classroom and into my teaching. So when we learned about shapes, we learned, we read Round as a Tortilla, that talks about, a tortilla is round, and using, a way to learn about shapes and things that are familiar to my students. We made tortillas. Tortillas are now part of daily life for or weekly life, I guess, maybe not daily, but I have a tortilla press, and I feed my own children tortillas, and that's the beauty of learning from each other and embracing the diversity that's around us, is everyone benefits.
And you think about the belonging, the sense of belonging, and the community that it built in your classroom, even for 4 and 5-year-olds, like what they felt, like, oh, this is something valuable in my class. My teacher, especially, they really look to us, especially those younger kids, like, my teacher likes this. She's making sure that everybody knows about tortillas and how great they are. And,
right. And Arlette Rodriguez, I have to give credit to her, because I did not know how to make tortillas or any of that. Arlette Rodriguez thankfully shared that with me and taught me how to do that, and taught me how to make those. And then I was able to do that with my students. And I'll always remember that. It was quite the day.
So then where did that lead to?
Sure. So that led to more considering of using the student direction to art, using more student-led art and student-created art, and then encouraging my colleagues to do that as well, which they did, and they went their own direction with it and made it their own, which was excellent. And then just kind of an embracement of open-mindedness and thinking about diversity in a broader sense. So I've always had non-traditional pets in my classroom, which doesn't make me the most popular teacher when I have a pet snake or a pet cockroach, but I think it's a really good example of how what we've heard about something is often not connected with the truth, right? Yeah. So cockroaches in particular, we hear that they're dirty, that they're scary, and really they're not scary. They spend the majority of their time cleaning. They eat oranges and apples, and if you put water on a cotton ball, they'll go up and drink it, and they can be very calm. You can hold them in their hand, and if you really look at a Madagascar hissing cockroach closely, you can see that it's kind of this giant ant under the scary looking shell. I brought that pet in my classroom, shared that with my students. We read a book about Madagascar hissing cockroaches, and then I shared that with other preschool classrooms as well. And so everyone's having this experience to interact with something that maybe they thought was scary before, and now they're thinking again, right, about it. They're looking at it in a new way, just like, the whole idea with creativity and sky color. Does the sky always have to be blue? Let's really think about that thing. Does a pumpkin always have to be orange? No, pumpkins can be white,
we
green,
ones,
yeah,
we
kind
see
of
multicolored
blue, kind
ones.
of pink, So, just looking at things in a new way and embracing that, seeing the diversity everywhere.
Yeah.
Also, I know you're very passionate about incorporating lots of different stories in your classroom as well.
Power of picture books is critical.
I love that, the power of picture books, and I know you, like myself, were really inspired and challenged the first time that you were like, I want to bring more of that, and you talked about hair love. I love that post where you shared that, and I felt very similar with that. And through the UNILI, bringing those diverse stories into my classroom has been just such a transformative experience for everyone, my colleagues included. So that was just really high praise that a colleague gave me, is that as a newcomer to our country as a child, she would have felt really happy in my classroom, really special and reflected. That really means a lot. So
it's inviting, and a place to let students know that they're not, you're not the only one in a certain situation. I think of that with books like in my classroom, I've had a student in the past that one of their parents was incarcerated. Visiting Day by Jacqueline Woodson. That was a huge book. Like, for them, they're like, oh, there's a story about my life. That child went to visit their parent while they were in jail. This book is about children going to visit their dad in jail. There's power in that. So I think how cool to introduce that to 4 and 5-year-olds.
Sure.
And how that helps them understand other people's lives. Maybe it's not their own, but this could be somebody else's life too. Right. So when you think of, as your project continued, because it started with one way, and you said then it started to move and shift. Your students did some hip hop literacy.
Yes.
How cool is that? Because I think hip hop literacy, bringing in, going back to that reading part for me, that literacy component, that the rhyming, the rhythm, the poetry writing, they're writing a script for themselves about who they are, or whatever it is they want to express, and sharing that as 4 and 5-year-olds.
And to correct that a little bit, it with 4 and 5-year-olds, it's more just in the moment improv, right? So it's more the speaking part than the script part, which is okay, right? I had kind of thought it had to be the script beforehand, and then no, it doesn't. Let's have it so it's more improv. Let's have it in their language with a lot of multilingual learners that, maybe don't know as many English words. If you give them a microphone and some backbeats and, hey, just express yourself. And one student in particular, I heard more communication, which is in Spanish that I'm not fluent in, but I saw more expression and words and engagement in that than I had all year, because it was that avenue of expression. And I love Dr. Meacham's hip hop literacy and everything that he's taught me about it, because it really allows students to play in a new way and be creative, and teachers and adults as well, and also share their stories and connect. It's that connection piece, just like with literature, that we're putting out who we are and what we value in a medium that can be shared and understood and appreciated and celebrated. So,
well, I like that you brought that into, as a coach for cohort 3, you brought that rhythm and movement and things that you would do in your preschool classroom to us adults. Like, I think of the activity you guys do with rhythm sticks and scarves. It's something I went then back to my seat that day and purchased, and I'm going to use them in my classroom. As I lead professional learning here in my building, I want to do that with my staff, or not my staff, but my colleagues, with my colleagues as well, and let them try that, because I think how cool is that it's such a big part of literacy, but it's also a big part of art, that we are creating rhythm. We are creating, having movement. We are having these kids create something with what they're learning. And I think that's really fun.
Yeah.
You talked about some other books that you used and reasons why you used those books. Would you want to share?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. You know, everyone has a story to tell. There are a lot of stories that maybe don't get the attention that they deserve, that they should. And so I really started to kind of seek out some of those and look for those. And teachingbooks.org is a wonderful resource for those. Yeah, right. Yeah. But then also, you know, your independent bookstores, Here Names, you have Dog-Eared Books. You know, they recommended several books. They recommended Big before it was the Caldecott winner, and they know literature. Those are good resources to, hey, you know, what's coming through that's meaningful. What Happened to You by James Catchpole is an incredible story that Dog-Eared Books recommended as well. But I started to, you know, look for those stories and bring those stories in and think about how I wanted my students to see themselves, right? When we had a visit to the fire station, I wanted my students to see that females can be firefighters. My mother worked in a science field, right, a very male-dominated science field, and she often talked about being the only, you know, woman in that field and in those rooms. And I think about her often with the language I use and the experiences that I give my students. And I decided we're going to learn about firefighters, and I'm going to bring in my friend who was a firefighter. And I said, can you come in? And she said, yes, but I'd have to bring my 9-month-old son with me. I said, perfect. That's kind of what I want them to see. So she brought in all her fire equipment and pictures of her when she was, you know, a wildlife firefighter with her baby, you know, her son with her. And it was a really powerful moment. They, you know, acted out, the message that they passed for the front of the line to the back. Very engaging. She's a wonderful educator. And after that, students were able to see themselves as firefighters, especially our female students. And when we asked, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up? It was, oh, I want to be a firefighter and a mom, or a police officer and a mom. You know, you can do that. And that's the importance of that diversity piece as well. So how can we bring in, you know, more of those roles and highlight more of those roles when students see that, you know, doctors can look like them and talk like them, then they can see themselves doing that when they are older as well, which is a really powerful piece to me. When students see that bodies come in all sizes, and that's okay, right? You know, through Big, and the smallest girl in 2nd grade is a wonderful story. And that bodies come in all abilities. The Mermaid with No Tail by Jessica Long is a wonderful story. And, you know, What Happened to You, it helps celebrate that and understand that, you know, we all have differences, and that's wonderful, right? That's great. So, yeah.
I love that all of this stemmed from, because I think of your title, the title of your project, Tortillas and Tempera. I always say tempura, but that's the fish batter, not tempera is the paint.
Oh, am I saying it wrong?
You know, I'm thinking
I'm
fish
getting
batter.
old. That could totally be,
you know, teachers have things to learn too. But even still, what started from a tortilla and engaging your students in learning about each other and celebrating their culture and what they, and how it became so much more than that. I mean, I think about the book choices that you have given to your students, that it opened it up to, we're all different, but we all belong in a community together, and we all have great things to share with each other. And how you brought in art, I love that you were taking something great that you learned from Denise Talixon, how engaging art can be in the classroom, and brought that to life in your classroom, and then brought in the power of a picture book and brought that all together. So kids they're not just, oftentimes what I hear from other people are, oh, well, that you're just drawing a picture. No, we're doing so much more than that. That picture, that, yes, they are getting to paint, but they're learning so much about themselves and others and the world around them through that project, through that artwork.
Yeah.
And so, and you're engaging them. What is it that, tell me again, you said, you quoted something that I thought was really powerful about art and engagement. It was about engagement.
Oh, yeah. So this is paraphrasing of Denise Talixon. So, but what she had said is, if your students aren't engaged in what they're doing, what are you really getting from that? What are you accomplishing there, right? People need to be engaged with what it is that they're doing, and art does that, right?
Yeah.
When we're creating, we're engaged. We have to be in order to create, and I think that's the power of that, is that you have to be 100% into it to be creating, and that's the power of using art.
I think that brings that page number to life, because who wants to teach? I am not someone who likes to teach to a page number of a book.
Yeah.
Like, that's just not how it brings that art of teaching. It brings a standard to life. It brings the power of who those students are to life, but it empowers us I like that it empowers me as a teacher to take that step and bring learning to life for kids.
Yeah, and the thing that I think that is the most remarkable power of art is you put the driver's wheel in your students' hands, and they're able to go places that you didn't even know existed, right?
Yeah.
They're doing things that you never would have dreamed of, that you never would have thought possible, and that are important to them because it's from them, right? And we see that with hip hop literacy, that these kids are writing things about important global matters, right? And they're 10 and 11 and 12 years old, and they're writing these powerful pieces and having these insights. If we sit down and say, read this article on global matters, and is that engagement there? But when it's coming from them, they're doing that reflecting and getting there, that's the power of creativity.
Well, it's applying what they're learning.
Sure.
Like, putting some application to that, which I think is so powerful too. Are there other things from your project that you'd like to share?
I think,
or even think about where do you want to take this? Because you're not going to be in a preschool classroom next year. So where do you want to take this new learning? Because you're clearly very passionate about it. In all my conversations with you, not just today, but in previous encounters too, it's not just about, it's not done. It's not, there's not a finality to it. Where do you want to take this then, especially with this group of education majors that you're going to lead?
I mean, I think that a lot of what I'll be doing in my new role is helping educators develop as professionals, you know, and that is an important piece of that, is teaching them how to think, right? How to think about learning, how knowledge is constructed, how students are engaged, what really engages students, the power of experiencing that creativity, and understanding and respecting that not all learners are going to learn things in the same way. So if we're teaching to a page number, it's really not best practice, because how Angie learns and how Kelly learns are very different things, right? And why would I teach you the same way? And we can teach the same content in very different ways. And the arts kind of let you give up some of that control in a more meaningful, powerful way. So I think that mindset in my new role is going to be huge. And I would like to continue this work in my community as well, especially the hip hop literacy piece, I just see so many applications with that, and thinking big picture, why can't this be like high school band for everybody? Like everybody does hip hop literacy as a, extracurricular activity. It's, really powerful stuff.
Well, and I think how it can bring in the community, whether in a classroom or I'm thinking of a parent in our building who I had her child this year, and he started this comic book frenzy. He started this thing where graphic novels were his jam. Dave Pilkey, he loves. And so he got other kids to start writing these comics. He started something big in my room that was just overflowing, which then led to this parent saying, I think I could start a comic book club at school. Like, what would that look like? I know there's a big group of kids that would love that. I think of that with hip hop literacy. If you get that in your community, who could lead that and bring that, like, it's such a community building thing, and getting other people involved. Like these projects, I started off by saying these projects are about what we see the need in our classroom at that time, but knowing that they can carry over into so many other things. For me, the creativity in a classroom led to other classrooms coming and seeing the work of these second graders. They had to take this home and share it. They wrote books about it. They taught each other things. They opened up so many other things for those students. And they were learning the Iowa Common Core standards along the way. Like all of that goals were being met still for them. So I think that sense of community it brings in, how it engages other people, I love that with your tortilla story, bringing in other people. Your friend who came in as a firefighter, bringing in other people, so that these students do get to see a lot more than just the walls of their classroom.
Yeah. And Brianna Coleman is the friend. I feel like I need to say her name. So yes, and Arlette Rodriguez for teaching me how to make tortillas, and I think we all need to say thank you to Lori Norton Meyer for encouraging us to think this way and to grow as educators and have these experiences that have led to this accelerated growth that I think a lot of us have.
Yeah, it's not just a one and done. You don't just go back and be like, oh, I'm done.
Right.
I mean, we're sharing this with other people. We're sharing this with our community.
Yeah.
We're seeing that again in a world where oftentimes education looks, we're seeing there's a lot of great going on.
Yeah. Come
to our classrooms and see. I have an open door policy. I love to have people come see. You're going to see the messy. You're going to see the stuff that'll give you gray hair sometimes as teachers, but you're going to see a lot of fun stuff too, and you're going to see students engaged in learning, excited about learning. And so I appreciate what you shared. I want to share your blog as well, and if people have questions, I want them to be able to ask, so feel free to ask questions, comment, what is it you'd like to learn more about. The folks that we interview, I mean, they have a lot to offer our education field and our wealth of knowledge, and love to share. So come back again. We'd love to see you. Comment, let us know. And with that, enjoy your day.